Willkommen bei Sales & Pepper, dem modernen Vertriebspodcast für alle, die keinen Bock mehr haben auf 0815 Vertrieb. Hello and welcome back to Sales & Pepper podcast. My name is Dominic, and if you are working in sales, building sales teams, or if you're a founder interested in sales, then it's the right podcast for you. Today we are going to talk about one of the most important topics when it comes to building sales teams, and it's the topic of hiring the right talent. So today I have a guest who's specialized in that field, so I'm really curious about our discussion today. Hello and welcome, Elvin Kingma.
Thank you, Dominic.
Elvin, you're working for a company called Bluebird. Maybe you tell us a bit about your background. How did you land this job? Like how did you come up with finding sales talent?
Yeah.
And tell us a bit more about yourself, please.
Of course. Thank you so much, first of all, for being here. I'm Elvin. I am 32. I'm Dutch. Ein Friesenjong is what the Germans call me, I believe, from the north of the Netherlands. I have a background in SaaS sales. So I spent half of my career at early stage VCs, backed startups in SaaS, closing deals, being sales, doing cold calls, etc. And that moved into, at one point, being involved in hiring salespeople, SDRs, account executives, even commercial CSMs and stuff. And I was doing that for a long time. And I found out that half of my week I was sometimes just filtering out bad profiles that didn't match. And I think that probably a lot of sales leaders have had that issue. Yeah. I don't know if you've seen that yourself, or if you were involved in hiring.
I was at Pleo actually,
right?
And it was one of my main tasks actually, finding and building the team. So yeah. I know that problem.
You know the pain,
Yes.
right? So yeah, I had the same pain, and I was like, there must be a better way to do that. But those profiles typically came from recruitment agencies, and the recruiters didn't have a background in software sales. So the reason I actually moved into recruitment and joined the dark side, so to say, is we just saw an opportunity to fill a gap in the market that wasn't there yet, which was doing recruitment for SaaS by people that come from the SaaS space. Yeah. And that's in 2020 we built Bluebird. And I joined at the end of 2020, left my SaaS sales job, took half a salary pay cut, took a leap of faith, and moved into recruitment. And now I've been helping out a lot of founders and hiring managers at SaaS companies to find the right talent, especially in the DACH region and in Germany, which has been a lot of fun.
And that's an important fact, because today we specifically want to talk about the DACH region and also how the market is looking like at the moment, but also common mistakes when it comes to hiring, but also
I know plenty.
Best practices. And probably also a bit on the talent side, like how to land your dream job. So a lot of great topics we are covering today. Yeah. Let's start a bit more about your biggest achievements when you're looking back at the previous years, especially because you said it, from the sales side to the hiring side. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about what was your biggest achievements, and also what are you most proud of when you're looking back?
It's funny because it's not really the achievements I'm most proud of, but more the decisions that led to those achievements. So there's three things I think that are the most important to me and what I'm most proud of. And one of those things is actually I've always picked people over anything else. So I started at Impraise, which was a Y Combinator company. Yeah. Was writing my master's thesis. I was still very young, and I moved to Amsterdam. I'm from the north, like I told, and I joined this Y Combinator company very early stage. They just came out of that Y Combinator incubator, and the reason I picked that company was because of the people and the values. They were very similar to mine, and it's not always been easy. Like, we went through hyper growth, and eventually this company was sold. But we've also had product market fit problems, right? And a lot of struggles. But as long as you're with the right people, it all makes sense, and you can weather the storm much better. Yeah. And that also was the reason why I moved to Bluebird. Not only because I saw the opportunity, I found it quite scary to jump into recruitment. I never done recruitment myself, right? I hired some people, but never done recruitment. All I knew was do product demos and cold calls, but it's very similar. But it's also the people. At Bluebird, they have the same values. Mainly authenticity and integrity, and that's also what always had me create an environment of fun, but also competitiveness. So yeah, I think those things are most important, and that's what I'm most proud of, I think, in all my decisions that came through. And then I think another thing that I'm really proud of is building the DACH market for Bluebird. So taking the leap of faith, going into recruitment, never having done it, it became the best decision of my life because it gave me freedom, it gave me a lot of growth as well. And eventually, I was able to move into the DACH market. I joined Bluebird in 2020.
Yeah.
And I saw an opportunity in 2021 to conquer the DACH market, so to say, because nobody was doing anything there from Bluebird yet. And now it's one of our core regions, and we've helped a lot of companies there, a lot of founders, and it's just been a lot of fun. I've built a team out in the German region, and these guys are amazing. So that's been probably one of the things I'm most proud of. And also, I don't know if you can see it, I got married last week.
Congrats again.
Thank you. That's also something I'm very proud of.
You can.
And again, also picked the right person for my life with the same values.
Probably helped also with the hiring skills.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, biggest deal I've closed ever. Yeah, 100%.
Congrats to that.
Thank you.
Evan, I can relate a lot to what you just said because you mentioned the culture topic that you went for the culture and was one of the best decisions you made. And I can relate a lot to that because also I was trying to make a career in sales for a long time, and I was always chasing titles. I was chasing best salary, right? So
money as well, of course.
Money in sales is important as well, of course. But at one point, I felt like, okay, I'm just done with it. It's just not the culture. Oftentimes, when the salary is high, is often not that good. So I decided to take a salary cut, and went to Pleo. You probably
I know them very well,
right? And it was the first time in the hiring process where I sat together with them. And after going out of the interview, it was actually also one of the few jobs I landed because of a headhunter. He reached out to me. And when he introduced me and explained, okay, that's a company from Denmark. They want to conquer the German market. There's like 3 people team at the moment. Go for lunch and just meet them. And I went there and I was so blown away because the people were so nice and I had so much fun with them in that 1 hour. And it was not like a normal interview process for me.
I can imagine.
So, and then as you probably know, the storyline went like we got the Series C funding and we went for the unicorn. So I was able to build the sales team there. It was such a great experience for myself. But then I was also responsible for the hiring part. So when I look at that time period, what I found was having good sales skills and like leaders that actually use their sales skills for outreach to people were actually more successful than the ones just depending on we get applications and it's going to be fine. My question to you would be, where do you see similarities when you look at sales and then hiring? Like what do you think, like also for yourself when you look at your past? What skills actually benefits you in your job today, and what skills do you need to be successful in hiring great talent?
Good question.
Kurze Pause, bevor es weitergeht. Zeit für unseren Partner Kickscale. Jeder, der im Sales arbeitet, kennt es. Admin-Kram nervt. Stundenlang Meeting-Notizen tippen, CRM aufräumen, E-Mails schreiben und dabei möchtest du doch eigentlich nur verkaufen. Mit Kickscale geht das auf Knopfdruck. Das Tool nimmt deine Sales Calls DSGVO-konform auf, fasst alles automatisch zusammen, überträgt die Infos direkt ins CRM und erstellt sogar eine fertige E-Mail für deinen Kunden. Weniger tippen, mehr Sales. Und als Hörer bekommst du exklusiv 50 kostenlose Meeting-Analysen. Link in den Shownotes. Und jetzt geht's weiter mit der Folge.
By the way, coming back to Pleo, I can imagine that. I've met some of the people there, so I understand what you mean. It's a really good culture, and that trumps everything, right? So, to your next question, what is the most the most similarity is, I think, in sales, I personally believe, and I don't know if you agree, that it's a chain of events that are done successfully that leads to a deal. It's not one thing typically that creates a fail or a win. But the most important thing typically is the discovery, right? In a sales process as an account executive, if you mess up the discovery, you don't uncover enough pains and what the impact of that pain is, then you're going to struggle a lot later on in the process because you don't have the right value to offer to the client, right? Because you didn't do a good enough job there. With recruitment in hiring, it's very similar. It's like when you do a good hiring interview, you want to understand from your candidate or from the person who's interviewing with you as a company, where do they stand in their career right now? How is that going for them? What is great? What's not great? and what's the gap? Where do they want to go and where do they see themselves, right?
Yeah.
That's also gap selling or like value sales. Like you can then, based on what you have to offer them, show like, okay, well, it seems like you're missing this and we can offer you that exactly, or something very close to that. Let's discover that together.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest similarities between recruitment and hiring and actually doing like SaaS sales. And besides that, specifically if you're in an SMB market, there's this very high velocity of sales that you do.
Yeah.
And that's also with recruitment, it's very similar, right? You have a lot of interviews on a weekly basis. We typically talk to 30, 40 people a week.
Wow.
For years on end, so we know everybody now. No, not yet, but that's the goal.
But when you talk to 30 to 40 people, how many people are you actually placing in the end?
Ah, man, I think in my first year I played roughly over 50 people, and that's a little bit the standard, between 40 and 50 a year at companies. Yeah,
that's impressive. And also, like,
thanks.
what you mentioned, like, I think on top of that, where I see similarities is like talking to people is one part, but also know when is the right timing to actually place them or to offer your products. Actually, also
it's all about timing. It's all about time.
I think that's what people get wrong all the time, because when I'm reaching out to you, also in hiring, I want to hire you, and you say, hey, no, I'm happy, I don't want a new job.
That's great.
Most people just stop there.
Yeah.
But if you ask the right questions, you probably find out, okay, what needs to happen that you're actually willing to change your job.
Yeah.
And if you know that, this is actually the golden nugget you want to go for, because then you know when it's the right time to reach out again.
Of course. It's similar with a cold call, right? Like it's, people probably have something in place already, but then the next question is like, how do you like what you currently have? Yeah. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And it's similar with a job. Everybody has a job typically, right? And the best salespeople typically overachieve on quota. Yeah. They're doing great. They're not looking for something else. But it's getting those people to the next company with understanding what really triggers them. Yeah. That I think makes recruiters better, so to say, in general.
Yeah. Yeah. When we look at the current market conditions, because those changed a lot, especially like when I look at the last 2-3 years, at least for me, when I look at it, it was when I was at Pleo, there was times where I got offered twice as much money for the same role.
I remember that.
There was like lots of money in the market. It was just about, okay, hiring, scaling fast.
Made
and
no
then
sense.
We saw a lot of layoffs. So there was also a lot of great talent actually pushed back into the market.
Yep.
What are you seeing right now? Like we're round about the end of 2025. What would you say? What's the market looking right now, and how did it change when you look over the last few years?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I remember those over-evaluated companies, super inflated investments from VCs and everything. And that caused the market indeed to like create a bubble, and then it popped at one point. I think it was 23, right? This was the SaaS apocalypse, they called it. We had a rougher time as well at that time.
Hiring freeze everywhere.
It was hiring freezes. But then the good thing with hiring freezes happens, like companies continue to grow and eventually they open back up and now they need people, right? Yeah. So it always is up and down. It fluctuates. I think at the moment, the three things that I'm seeing the most, one is the IPO window has opened. That's what I've seen. You've seen the Figma IPO?
Yeah.
You know what happens with money that like goes to Figma, like in the investors, they get all that money and now they have liquidity to reinvest that money again. Yeah. So that money goes to startups and scale-ups, specifically in AI at the moment. Yeah. All that money goes back into the market and enters the market. And these companies are growing, hyperscale, and they're hiring a lot of people again. So I think because that is a window that has happened now, or this IPO window is open, I know a couple other IPOs are coming up in the next year or so. Yeah, there's a couple of these large companies that are about to do IPOs. That will be super good for the market. I'm very bullish on that. So I think that is a very positive thing that the market is entering into. Of course, we see AI at the moment. I don't know what your opinion about it is, but that's maybe a topic for a different podcast. I see AI has become more and more important. I still think it comes down to people in the end. AI is used to become much more productive and efficient and automating workflows and whatnot. But AI seems to be the new SaaS, right? Like it's over-evaluating again. And I hope that we're just not entering this bubble again, right? Where all these companies like Lovable and They go from 0 to 100 million in no time.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of companies claiming that they do that. And I hope for them that they achieve that, right? But not all of them can do that, obviously.
Yeah, that's true.
So I know a lot of money goes into this. And this is kind of like I see the market repeat itself again from this big inflation of money earlier in the SaaS market.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing. So for now, it's very bullish. I just hope that we don't have a backfire again like it happened before.
And would you say, like, when looking at higher end, the DACH, especially the DACH market, is there any specific things that you see that is different to other markets? Let's say when you want to build in UK or whatever.
Oh, absolutely.
Is it like, what makes DACH hiring special?
Yeah, DACH is a different, definitely a different market. In Europe, it's the most difficult market to hire people in. Worldwide, do you know what the most difficult market is to hire in?
I think I saw your LinkedIn post last time, so
okay, well remembered.
I think it was Japan.
Yeah, that is correct. Yes, yeah, very good. So Japan is apparently the most difficult market to hire sales talent in, or talent in general. But after that is Germany.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you wouldn't say, right? Well, I think it's fair to say there is a certain level of risk averseness within German culture, and I think that comes out a lot within hiring. It's like, I do recruitment in different countries as well. And within the UK or within the Netherlands or maybe even within the US, when talking to people, they're typically much more open to see change and understand like, hey, what are the other options that are out there? And they want to discover that. In Germany, it's much less so. And I think it's also good. Like there's a lot of loyalty towards employers, but also it gives safety, right? So it's just much harder to get people interested in other opportunities. And then would I leave my nice, cushy, comfortable corporate job for like a risky, high growth scale up with inflated numbers?
Yeah.
I understand that is a big risk. And that makes it a lot more difficult. And there is a big skewed a trend at the moment between supply and demand. So it's a candidate's market, or like there's just way more job opportunities than there is candidates. So all these companies pull at these candidates at the same time.
Yeah.
And that makes it really difficult, and especially when you see companies outside of Germany hiring in Germany, they don't know the subcultures, they don't know the market. Yeah. It's a much more difficult. You need to know the people in the communities, and if you're in it, it's much easier.
Yeah, I agree. I think also when I'm talking to sales leaders, what I hear a lot, or the question that comes up a lot is like, hey Dom, you know so many people. Do you know we actually looking for SDR right now? Can you help us with finding an SDR? I think like SDR, at least from my perspective, is one of the most tricky positions to fill because normally you go for junior people that don't have much of experience, but you want to have people that actually can do the job. So then they want to have like a promotion very fast. So it's like a very fluctual position in the end. What is your opinion on that? It's like what is, let's say, most challenging when it comes to hiring in the DACH market for companies when you look at sales talent?
Yeah, SDRs again, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
I think every company wants and needs SDRs because pipeline trumps everything, right? And account executives typically are good in doing sales and building pipeline, but SDRs are the livelihood, so to say, or the bloodline, so to say, in that matter. So I agree with that. What is the most difficult, you're asking me? So if I go into what I see companies mainly do wrong, right, and where they can improve a lot, is actually also three things. I think it comes down to speed. When you hire talent, speed trumps everything as well. There's way too many companies that have an interview and then they wait a week and then they give you feedback and then interview a couple other people and then your next interview is the next week after that, and before you know it, you're 4 weeks, 5 weeks in and you still don't have an offer on the table or have made a decision. I don't know, how was that for you at Pleo?
I think like what I remember is that we had like a time schedule for each
that's good.
Applicant, right? So it was like, okay, if the first meeting was on Monday, then you have like 2 business days until the next meeting needs to happen. But we also try to involve different stakeholders along the line, like the reporting line. So it was not just the managers, it was also team members. In the end, it was the CRO. We had like culture fit, and then it was also like the talent itself in your position, right? So it was different perspective. And I think what I liked most was like when you look at one person and your gut was like 50-50, it was always a no.
Okay.
Because
it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
It needs to be a yes, otherwise it's always a no.
Yeah.
Even if you're like, if two people say no and one say yes, then it's also a no, of course.
Yeah.
So I think one challenge I saw there was I never hired people before, so I was not aware of what kind of questions should I ask the people. It's like these were the struggles I was confronted with.
Right.
To say, okay, I know how to sell my product, but actually I don't know. I also know how to connect with people. But actually I'm not good at asking the right questions, because then you also need benchmarks, right? And have like the same kind of quality in your interviews.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's another thing. I think companies should always have a certain idea or a benchmark on how to interview people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I see make gut decisions and gut questions. And then you have two founders that interview the head of sales, and the one says gut feeling good, the other one says gut feeling not good, and then you actually don't know where you stand. And nobody's assessed in the same way, right? And that's just, I think, a recipe for disaster, and making it constantly that you don't know exactly what you're looking for. So coming back to your question, the three things that I think most companies could really improve on is speed. I think the biggest tip I can give people is when you have that first interview with a candidate and you like that person, schedule all the other steps into it directly. Just put them in with a pencil. If the person or in the next interview round, the person does not do a good job, you can still cancel all the rest of the interviews, but at least they're scheduled, because that remains speed and you have engagement with the candidates, right? Really good candidates are typically off the market in 2 to 3 weeks.
I think one point to that is also be transparent about the process, because that what I struggled with was there was another call and another call. I was like, okay, I'm done already, and then there was another call and another call. That was so annoying that at one point I was like, oh, dude, how many calls are there, right? It's like, just tell me before.
How many were there?
I think it was 4 or 5.
Okay, well that's okay still, I would say.
Yeah,
but if you don't know up front.
That's the point. I was thinking of 1 or 2, and then it was 5, including the headhunter. It was.
I would say never go over 5 interviews. Typically it's like a TA screen, like the HR person's or the recruiter screens, right? And then it's a hiring manager interview. Then you talk with somebody else, or maybe a peer interview or a different hiring manager from a different team. Then you have a case study where you do a discovery role play or a cold call role play, depending on SDR, AE, or head of sales, like a typical 30, 60, 90-day plan, strategy, go-to-market plan. And then there's typically one more call, which could be a meet the team or like a founder call, CEO call, right? But then you should go to an offer. And that process from the get-go should be very clear to everybody involved. And then you say like timestamps, and it's up to the TA person typically or the hiring manager to keep that person engaged. If you don't do these things, you can very likely lose out on talent. So those are speed and transparency in the hiring process. I think the third one is also transparency in OTE and commission. We're all in sales. We all want to make money, right?
Absolutely, especially in sales.
Especially in sales, and it's okay to say that, right? Like you do your job to earn something, right? And hopefully you have a lot of fun at the job. That's the best scenario. But we're all in sales. It's about commission. Typically pay out the most, right? Not the base salary. And sometimes these OTEs can be very skewed and very aggressive on the commission, which in my opinion is fine, because it will filter out people that will perform on commission.
And on top of that, also being transparent about the actual numbers in the sales team, right?
Because yes, also that.
In my OTE is
everybody does 200% here.
And then in the end, everyone's performing at 30%.
Right.
The OTE is bullshit, right?
And that's also fine. Like a lot of candidates come to me often, and they say like, I want a company where everybody's overperforming. And I was like, do you know that in the last 5 years, only 50% of all SaaS companies actually achieve quota. Like it's very okay to be in a company where like 70 or 80% is the attainment, but you need to know context always. Similar with putting it on your CV. A lot of people don't want to put their achievement on their CV if it's not 100%. But like 80% can be fine. Maybe you were the top performer, but you still did 80% of the team quota or your individual quota.
And the average, I think, is also by less than 100%, right? When I talked to Cleo, they were saying, okay, the goal would be to aim at 80%. So, it's like always this, you have few high performers, but also fewer low performers.
You just need to know the context. You can't say anything about 100% or OTE, like 200K OTE, 160K OTE. I always say I'd rather go for something that is at 160 and then I do 120% of my quota. You will make more than doing 60% of 200K OTE. Yes, your base might be a bit higher, but you will eventually, over the entire year, make less money, right? And I think that is something companies need to communicate much more clearly to candidates, because a lot of candidates typically take step back sometimes, because we were on all these high OTEs in the market with this overinflation and everything you just spoke about. And now candidates need to come from 240K down to 200K because they want to go from a more grown scale up that got acquired maybe to a new startup, but the new startup is in the seed stage and they don't pay 240K, they pay 200K. But you need to know, how can I overachieve on my quota? Is it realistic? Are the targets achievable, right? Like, what are the kickers and the accelerators? Because that's where the real earning is. And when candidates don't understand this, you can already see that top candidates, they look at the OT and they're like, oh, that's already a lot less. And they're not even interested in having an initial call. So you're really limiting yourself in your candidate pool as a company if you're not clear and upfront about what the actual earning potential outside of the OTE is.
Yeah, I think earning potential is a super great word for that, because everyone is like just looking at OTEs, but like the earning potential, I think, is a very great way to describe what you actually should focus on.
Yeah, in my opinion. Yeah.
But you also mentioned now that like normally there's like talent acquisition managers involved, there are hiring managers involved. Not every company actually has this phase already. So sometimes it's just early stage, it's the founder themselves, or it's just like the head of sales doing all the process themselves. As mentioned, also for myself, it was hard for me because I never had interviews before and I didn't know what kind of questions I should ask. What would be your advice like for people who wants to get like into hiring and want like to get better at hiring people? What kind of question, maybe like 2-3 questions, your favorite questions that everyone could just copy and say, okay, this is what you need to ask to understand if this is the right person?
So are you asking me if hiring managers, like what questions companies should ask candidates, or what company, or the other way around?
Let's do both.
Okay, well, we can definitely do both. So I think it's difficult to pinpoint 3 questions that everybody should ask, because I think that's too short-sighted to say like, okay, we have these 3 questions, you should always ask them. Typically, what I like to do in an interview, in the first interview stage, is definitely a tip that I can give companies to become better at interviewing. I see so many companies grill candidates on the first interview and just like, okay, so what was your OTE and how much did you achieve? Why did you not hit quota? And like blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Have you ever experienced something like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
How was it for you?
Horrible.
Yeah.
It's
like sitting there sweating. Like, oh my God. Yes, sir.
But
yes,
sometimes
ma'am.
it was also the other way around. It's just like having a half an hour call and then was like, okay, it was not about the job at all. It was just like a great conversation.
Also, yeah, but that's, I think, even better though. I think there should be a good balance. Like if I can give any tips, rather than like what specific questions companies should ask, I think you should always allow time for the company to be pitched, right? In the first interview, you need to sell the opportunity. When I speak to a great candidate, that candidate is typically in 4 or 5 different opportunities. So if I'm going to introduce that candidate to one of my clients, I definitely advise my clients like sell the opportunity. They're already interested, but they're not sold on it yet, right? Or at least not always. But if you then start grilling that candidate in the first interview, there's a very big chance that candidate at the end of 30 minutes be like, that's great. I don't know nothing about you guys. I have no clue what you do. I don't know why I should move here, right? Because they only use that interview to just ask all the information from the candidate. And as recruiters typically already do that. TA people already do that typically. So I think if I can give one tip, it's sell to the candidates in the first interview and don't grill them too much. In the second interview, you can go deeper and ask more questions. And then you should go into context of how people achieved things rather than what they did. Sometimes I have interviews with candidates and they just tell me, oh, I went here and then I did this and then I went there and then my boss left my company and then I moved to that company to go with my former boss. I'm like, that's all great, but I still don't know how you did at all those companies, right? Like I have no clue. How was the context? What did you sell? Who did you sell to? Right? Like talk about those things as a candidate, but also ask those things as an interviewer, because otherwise the candidate will take the lead of what kind of questions you're asking. So you just have to put more thought into what do I actually need to know from this candidate and frame your questions that way in an interview.
Yeah, I love that. And I think also looking back, one of my favorite questions or like tactics was more about not looking at the skill set or like, okay, did they use Salesforce or HubSpot, but more about what are they actually having the drive to learn, adapt, and grow in the company.
Yeah.
So I was also asking more private questions, kind of what was your biggest achievement in the last, let's say, 12 to 24 months? Could be job, could be private. And explain to me, what did you do? Why are you proud of it? And explain it like in detail to me.
That's a good question.
Because then it's like, they're opening up, that you learn something about them, about their interest as well.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to actually get to know them on a different level and not the, let's say, the things that they always answer, every interview, right? So it's...
Maybe I can come up with one question then for hiring managers to ask, right? Because sometimes you have founders who are hiring salespeople and they've not done sales themselves. You have technical founders, right? What I would always ask them to do is like walk me through one of your recent deals that you've closed and how did that go? And also walk me through one of the deals that you lost and how did you lose that deal? The right salespeople can pinpoint the exact moment where they moved the needle that either closed it or where they lost it. And when people start to struggle, they start to brabble when they like come up with a lot of fluff, then probably they don't really know what they're actually doing.
Yeah. But now we're talking about AEs. I mean, especially when I look at SDRs, for example, I mean, they're way more junior. And so normally they don't have a track record you could actually talk about, right? So I think this is something I felt like was always tricky. How do you make sure that this person actually performs as an SDR when they've never done the job before? Like, what's your experience here? Like, what kind of skill set you should look at?
Do you know Mark Roberge, the Sales Acceleration Formula, that book? He was the CRO of HubSpot.
Yes.
And he found a way to like engineer certain soft skills into junior talent assessments. And we actually use it at Bluebird as well. Curiosity, work ethic, intelligence, and coachability. Those are 4 key characteristics that you can test on with a certain framework. Read the book if you want to know how. But we use that interview technique as well with junior sales talent, because typically if they do well on those 4 things, they have real sales DNA. And you need to test ability over work experience, right? The same goes for also companies.
Exactly.
They need to look at, well, we need 5 years of AE experience. Like, well, not necessarily. You need somebody who can actually do the job. And a lot of companies look way too much into certain proxies, which means they need to come from this industry, they need to have this many years of experience, and then they limit their own sales pool a lot. So my other recommendation for companies that are hiring sales talent is don't look necessarily at what you think you need, but look at what actually needs to get done and assess that within your hiring talent.
Yeah.
Because you're limiting yourself a lot if you don't do that.
I agree a lot, because one of the best performing reps we've hired back then was actually someone working in the hospitality industry for 15
I can imagine.
years, as a waiter.
Yeah.
And due to COVID, they changed to SaaS sales. And she was one of the best performing SDRs because she know how to hustle. Like, she was really doing the work.
Yeah.
And then also she was just know how to talk to people. So I was like, dude, this is a pattern. We need to copy this.
We found many SDRs from the hospitality space that are fantastic. Like, they have a hard work, they have the work ethic.
Yeah.
They're eager to learn and to grow, and they bring the right mindset to it. Absolutely. Yeah. And they're good with people, right? Like, they're quick on their feet typically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now we talked a lot about the company side. Maybe let's move on the other side.
Candidates.
We also want to give the candidates a bit of tips and tricks, like how to handle interviews in the best way possible. So what's your recommendation here? Like, what should people focus on in interviews? How should they act or go into the interview to actually be successful and get the job?
I'll make it concise. I think candidates should do 3 things to improve their chances on landing a job. They should handle an opportunity that they have as one of the biggest deals they've ever closed. Send an upfront agenda, multi-thread to multiple stakeholders. Yeah. If you reach out to a company, don't just apply. Like, reach out to the HR person, the head of sales, this founder, another account executive, multi-thread. And then use all that information into your interview process. After the first call, follow up with them saying, hey, thanks, I really learned a lot, I'm super excited, etc. Like, that's the best thing you can do. You need to prospect your ass off, so to say, in order to land an opportunity. Just sending a resume, like, it won't work. Yeah. So that's my number 1 tip. I think my second tip is talk about KPIs. Sales is performance, it's about numbers. And talking about what you did and not how you did it is a loss. So like talk about how, like your context. Who did you sell to? SMBs, mid-market, enterprise? Are you trained on medics, spin, band? Like, do you already know all that stuff? Put that on your resume, but also put it on your LinkedIn for whatever data you can actually put on there.
Yeah.
Right? I see so many LinkedIn profiles they don't tell me anything. And if you are applying to a job with 30 other people, and one of those profiles says exactly target, achievement, average deal size, average deal cycle, this is how much pipeline I generated, this is who I sold to, these are the logos I want, immediately I'm like, that's a great salesperson.
Yeah.
Even if they didn't attain
they know
100%,
their shit, huh?
they know their shit, yeah. And you'll stand out because 99% of people don't do this, and I don't understand why. Like you're in sales for numbers, put those numbers on your CV.
Yeah.
Those are the two biggest tips that I have. The third one is prepare 2 to 3 really good questions. It will really make you stand out. If you go into the end of the call and you're like, actually, I have a couple questions, can I ask them? And you really knock it out, you show that you did your due diligence, you did the due diligence of the company, of the industry, of the challenges that they're in, ask a couple really good questions. And one that I have specifically that I love to ask or give advice to ask, if you'd hire me right now, how would you know in 12 months from now that you made the perfect hire?
Yes.
Because it will allow the interviewer to talk about what needs to be done to be successful.
Yes.
And then you can sell yourself on that framework with relevant examples.
I love that. I heard this question before and I used it myself. I don't know where I got it from actually.
Maybe one of my LinkedIn
yes.
posts. No, I don't know. I stole it as well. Yeah.
No, I think it's a great way because it's also painting a picture and it's a bit of storytelling. Like what do I need to do exactly to be successful in your company? What would make me a high performer? Right? It's a great question.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you asked about AI in the beginning. I think this is actually a great moment when to use AI as a talent, is like prepare your interviews. Like,
oh yeah,
you know,
so easy nowadays
to get information about the company, your hiring manager, every this kind of stuff, and also come up with interesting questions. AI could be a very, very helpful resource here.
100%. Yeah.
Last question, Alvin, because we're running out of time.
Sure.
I'm always also yeah, right. I'm always curious to understand also how you look at the market in a couple of years. So we now also heard about you seeing the first IPOs coming up and stuff like this. But what would you say? Like, are you seeing any trends when it comes to hiring? Are roles changing, or how would you look at the whole hiring segment in GTM in the next couple of years?
Yeah. Well, through the IPO window opening up, and I think like I said, I'm bullish on the market. I think there will be a lot of money thrown into like early stage startups again. So the hiring will increase. It's not becoming a lot easier to get the right people, right? And especially with AI, I've seen a guy that I recently interviewed do the job of like 3 people, just with all these AI workflow automations that person had. If that tells me anything, it's that one person can do a lot more work than they could a couple of years ago without AI.
Absolutely.
So not having AI in your tool set or toolbox or in whatever role you do, like, is a miss. So that is something that is really changing. And companies will test you on this as well, right? Like they will ask you about how you're using AI and what specifically do you do to become more productive? Or if you're in sales and there's no marketing team yet, like what do you do with AI to build lead generation for yourself, right? Like you need to be able to be a pioneer and do much more and more generalistic type of person. However, in recruitment, because that's of course my game, I see one big shift, and that is that generalists in recruitment actually don't work as well anymore. I think recruiters need to be domain experts because I see so many companies going into hiring sprees, but they actually don't really know what they're looking for. Founders that think they need a VP sales, but they just need more pipeline and account executives to close deals. Or technical founders that just actually don't know how to assess for the right CRO or VP sales. Yeah. And then they have advisors that come in, they say like, you need to look for this and this and that. But then we come in and we actually feel like we need to challenge them on that because we can see they're making a mistake based on a couple of aspects that are quite typical for us. And it's because we have that background in SaaS sales. And these founders have never done this before. So I think being a domain expert in recruitment will be much more important in the upcoming next years as well.
Do you see any roles that are popping up that haven't existed yet? Like I'm thinking of especially the SDR role, because some people say we don't need SDRs in the upcoming few years. But
I'm not sure about that.
What's your opinion? Like, is there a new kind of SDR? Like, let's say the pipeline generation expert or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I'm amazed, by the way, to see like how AI has evolved over the last 6 months. It's gone like that. I'm not sure if it will ever replace an SDR, but definitely one thing I have seen is implementing AI in RevOps and sales operations, being a go-to-market expert, so to say, on AI implementations. There's a couple companies out there doing that right now. I think if you have that skill set, this is something that companies will definitely need to beat their competition and stay ahead.
Yeah, I agree. And I also see like what you mentioned, that we have this kind of like we have more talent, we have more jobs than we have talents. Mm-hmm. This will actually change a lot as well, because due to AI, you maybe don't need a 20-person SDR team anymore. Maybe you just need 5 or 10 SDRs doing the same amount of work in less time, right? So I think this is something I'm seeing a lot. It's like we will have way smaller teams, more efficient teams,
and do more,
right? And I think this is something I'm seeing a lot at the moment.
Yeah, me as well. Yeah.
Alvin, thanks for being my guest today. It was a great discussion around hiring. For everyone who doesn't do it so far, please give us a like and follow the podcast as well. Share with your colleagues and in your team. And see you next Tuesday again when it's time for Sales and Pepper again. And until then, happy selling, everyone.